This is part 2 on completing a square for circles. We saw in the first video on circles that if the equation is in standard form, which is this right here, it's very easy to name the center and the radius. But oftentimes it is not in standard form, and the only way to put it in standard form is to complete the square. The organization on the completing the square is to get your x stuff together, get your y stuff together, and move this plain old number to the other side, which is the way I've set this up right here. X squared plus 2x plus blank. The reason the blank is there is that we're going to add a number in there that will actually complete the square for us. And then my y stuff together, move the 11 to the other side. Either think about adding 11 to both sides is why it turns out positive, or think about when you move it to the other side, you change the sign. And then we've got to have plus blank twice over here because we're going to complete the square twice. The process for completing the square is a matter of looking at the middle number. Half of 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1, add it to this side right away. Same thing over here with the y, half of 4 is 2, 2 squared is 4, add it over on this side. Now here's this line is the same thing as that, just written a little bit more neatly. Remember, we're trying to get it into this form, so we're going to have to factor this. And the way this factors is as x plus 1 squared for this, and the reason it's x plus 1, it's plus because that sign is positive. The reason it's 1 is because what two numbers multiply to give me 1 that add to give me 2 has to be 1 and 1. For the y's, what two numbers multiply to give you 4 that when you add them they give you 4 has to be 2. Simple arithmetic on the right side. Now it's easy to name your center. Remember to change your sign. That says x plus 1, so this is minus 1. This says plus 2, so it's minus 2. Your radius is just the square root of 16, which is 4. Let's get this organized. You have x squared plus 5x plus blank. Put your y stuff together, move the 4 to the other side. On this one, when you take half of 5 and square it, half of 5 is just the fraction 5 halves. And when you square that fraction, it's going to be the fraction 25 fourths. And you're better off leaving it as a fraction because of the factoring that we're going to do. Add your 25 fourths over here. With the 10, take half of 10 is 5, squared is 25. Add that to this side also. Here's the same line typed up neatly. Now it's time to factor. Just looking at this part, you're thinking what multiplies to give you 25 fourths, it adds to give you 5, and maybe that's hard to think about because of the fraction, and you really don't even have to think that far. We have, in the completing the square process, made this be a perfect square. And if it is a perfect square, then all we've got to do is look at this last number to decide what the factoring is. The square root of 25 fourths is 5 halves. Square root of 25 is 5. Arithmetic over here, we get 141 over 4. It'd be easiest if you just type this into your calculator. If you don't, then you're going to have to get yourself a common denominator and all this stuff together. On this left side then, it's a matter of naming your center. Change the sign to make it negative 5 halves. Change your sign, makes it positive 5. And this all adds up to 141 fourths. So our radius is the square root of 141 fourths. I can't do anything about the square root of 141, but square root of 4 is 2. Sometimes it looks like something's missing, and it doesn't make it more complicated. It actually is a gift. It means with the x squared, there is no completing the square I have to do. It's just going to hang out here. This is fine. I do need to have it set up with my blanks for the y, move the 6 over to the other side. Complete the square, take half of 7, gives us the fraction 7 halves. Square that, and we get 49 fourths to be added to both sides, which is what we have on this line. And then factor it up. X squared just comes on down because there is no factoring to it. We have to factor this, and it's y plus 7 halves, and where the 7 halves comes from is the square root of 49 fourths is 7 halves. Type this into your calculator, and you get 73 fourths. Now it is in standard form. Your center will be 0 because there's no parentheses, comma negative 7 halves. Your radius, like the last one, is the square root of a fraction. Nothing to do about the square root of 73, but the square root of 4 is 2. Now, different directions, this is pretty easy. This is asking you to write the standard form of the equation with certain bits of information. Here's your standard form. We want to have the center, we want to have the radius. Remember, the center is HK. So all we have to do is plug the 4 and the 1 in for HK. This is our R. So plug it in over here, and you're just looking at x minus h, which is 4, quantity squared, don't forget your squared, plus y minus k, which is 1 squared. And then it's not just 6, it's 6 squared, which is 36. That is the standard form of the circle. Another one like this, we have a center of negative 2, 0. So this will be x minus negative 2, quantity squared, plus, I'm going to write it as y minus 0, but I'll clean that up in a second, squared, equals that radius squared. 5 squared is 25. Two little things to take care of. This becomes plus, so more simply, this is just x plus 2, quantity squared. Inside here, y minus 0 is just y squared equals 25. So that's your equation of the circle given the center and the radius.